Good to see you, Christina.
Same here.
How are you doing?
I'm fine.
Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Hello, Mr. Gabriel.
Hello, Liana. Good afternoon. Okay.
Good afternoon. Sorry. It's good to see you too.
Not late. I thought I'm late. I wasn't.
Your volume is a bit low, I think.
My volume?
I can hear you better now.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm keeping my voice down. It's funny. I had I have a cold because we had some heat waves around here the last 2 days. So I didn't know that yesterday. I just sat directly beside my AC for a long time, and after that, I feel a little funny. Yeah, but I'm okay. If it's not loud enough, please just let me know.
Okay. Please get well soon and please take care of yourself.
No problem. Thank you.
It's time. Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Christiana Longe. I'm going to be moderating the program. Can you all hear me, please? Okay. So my name is Christiana Longe, and I'll be moderating the program for today, the mentorship program for today. So I'll start by introducing what the program is all about. JIIPCC, Juliana Imam Intellectual Property and Creative Consult Artificial Intelligence and Technology Mentorship and Internship Program is a quarterly program for students, young professionals, and entities across Africa. Mentees are afforded the opportunity to access valuable advice, training, network opportunity, network mentorship, internship discussion, forums, industry updates, and resource materials from experienced mentors. This program seeks to encourage continuous training, development, and evolution in Africa and around the world. You can watch our videos by searching for JIIPCC on YouTube and Facebook, hashtag JIIPCC MIP, that's mentorship program. Objectives of the program is to provide easy access to quality professional guidance, training, and resource materials for students, young professionals, and experts in Africa, to facilitate dialogue and network among experienced and less experienced practitioners and stakeholders, to transform mentees into mentors and leaders for the next generation, to facilitate further mentorship, internships, scholarships, and job placements for the mentees. So the next is I'll be reading out the so JIIPCC mentorship and internship program, it's yes, and these are the courses we offer. That's the fully sponsored online courses are intellectual energy industry, fintech, health tech, and law, then patents drafting. So now I'll be introducing the mentors for today. So the first mentor we have today is Gabriel Udo. So Gabriel Udo is a research fellow and doctoral candidate at the Faculty of Law, Europa Università Wiedrina, Frankfurt, Germany, and recently won the JIIPCC. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce this name as well. And
okay,
recently
you
won
just call it DAAD. It's fine.
I recently won the JIIPCC Academia or student funded position under the VIP's fellowship program for the research project, Intelligence, Weaponry, Laws and Ethics. Its research specialties are centered mostly on artificial intelligence and law, weapons, technology, smart city technologies and international humanitarian law, robotics, autonomous. Currently, Gabriel is a Beyond Fellow in the Ethics group of the Observation, International AI Future Lab on Artificial Intelligence for Earth Techniques Universität Munich. He holds a master's degree and machine learning Python certificate in artificial intelligence programming for data analysis, and UAVs and small robotics as several publications in both local and international journals. Gabriel, having presented papers in India, Sweden, Austria, and others in these research areas. At leisure, Gabriel plays the piano, develops programs with Python, and listens to music. You're very welcome, Mr. Gabriel.
Thank you.
So our next, we also have, our second mentor for today is Bode Akinmodu. He's a co-founder and CTO at Lesi Robotics, expertise in building hardware, prototyping, development, management, and mass manufacturing of robotics and automated systems. And our last mentor for today is so we'll move into the presentation for today. So I'll be calling on, let me just make this, I'll be calling on group 1 first to make their, we have 2 groups today, and I'll be calling on the group's members to make their presentation, and they'll also present their PowerPoint presentation from the groups. So group 1, if you're ready, you can go ahead. And if you're not, please let me know as quick as possible so I can call on group 2.
Good afternoon, Christiana, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sherry Oyer. I will be taking you through group 1's presentation for today. And just as an apology, just let me make an apology in advance. I'm in Kenya, where we are currently almost doing our elections. So probably you might hear some background noise. I apologize for that. It's just because of the activities that are surrounding the elections.
At least you're not going to hear gunshots.
We hope not. So basically, in our group today, we this week, we were discussing robotics and oversight. This presentation was graciously prepared by Bonolo. And I just go straight into it. The first issue was we needed to first introduce this topic. And in this first slide, you'll see that we have tried and define what robots are, what robotics is, and what is the study of robotics as well. So basically,
I'm sorry, Cherry, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You just have 8 minutes, please.
That's very well. I'll try and package it within that period. So robotics, it's a branch of AI, and it is that branch that deals with the study of creating intelligent and effective robots, basically. So robotics, you also see that as a branch of AI is composed of electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and computer science for designing, construction, and application of robots. Robots, we have defined it, or rather from our studies, it came out that robots are basically artificial agents that mimic, that are in the physical world and act in the real world environments. So they manipulate the objects by perceiving, picking, moving, and modifying physical properties of the object. The aspects of AI, as I've said, even as I was describing what AI is that we have seen that the robotics have 3 aspects. That is, they have the mechanical, they come in a mechanical form or shape that are designed so as to accomplish particular tasks. And then the other aspect is that they have an electrical component which powers and controls the machinery. And then the third aspect is that they contain some level of computer programs. They have computer programs that determine what, when, and how a robot does something. We also defined and differentiated between robots and AI programs. So where I find that AI programs usually operate based on a computer-stimulated worlds, the robots operate in the real physical world. And then the next difference is that AI programs, their input to the AI programs is in symbols and rules. So basically, AI programs they operate in terms of symbols and rules, while robotics, it's an analogs. They operate on analog signals in the form of speech, waveform, or images, for example. Then the third difference is that they need AI programs need general purpose computers to operate on, while robots will generally need special hardware with sensors and effectors, for example. The next issue is the application of robots in different sectors. So we looked at different sectors where robots are being utilized in. And for example, in the industrial, this list is not conclusive, but in the industrial sector, robots have been used for handling material, cutting, welding, color coating, drilling, and polishing. And mostly you'll see that robots are usually utilized, especially where, for example, it would be unsafe for human beings to do such activities, or for to do multiple things at the same time. That is not possible with human beings. The next one is medicine, where robots have been capable of carrying out hundreds of clinical tests simultaneously, and they rehabilitate permanently disabled people and perform complex surgeries such as brain tumors. So robots have been utilized in such situations in the medical field. Then we continue in robotics examples in Africa. So we have observed that robotics have been really, it's also a field that has also been thriving in Africa because of these examples that we have seen. And also this list is not conclusive as well, but there is also, we've seen the Robo Room service in South Africa. Basically, it's a robotic room service provider that has been utilized in most cases where there are people with COVID symptoms, so that to reduce human interaction and therefore they reduce the spread of the disease. By using the robots, then you achieve that. Then also you've seen robots in Rwanda being used, the zip lines being used to distribute medicine. And then the robots are programmed to perform temperature screenings, take readings for vitals, deliver video messages, and to detect if people are not wearing masks and instruct them to wear the masks where necessary and correctly. We continued on robotics examples in Africa. There's also the dog-like robot Spot. That is a South African invention that is used to excavate and to reach mining environments. Also, you can see from this example that this is in order to protect human beings, for example, where they cannot reach those areas, then the robot takes over those activities. Then they also, the Spot can be used in mining industries for seismic surveys, gas detection, laser scanning, conveyor belt line, tunnel inspection, search and rescue operations. So the issue of robotics and oversight is very necessary because as, let's say, for example, someone who is, there's always been so many misconceptions about robotics. So for example, if you are someone who watches, like say, Marvel movies and you see the robots in action, or maybe you just maybe you have read some conspiracy theories, there's always that thought of that the robots are here to take over and will become their slaves. So there's need to ensure that this sector is actually, or there's actual oversight and the regulations that are put in place. So this is the reason for the necessity that has made it necessary for oversight to come about. However, when you come into issues of whether we have oversight and how they are faring, you see that there are certain challenges that have emerged. For example, the first challenge is the pacing problem. And this is with regards to the pace at which regulations and regulations on one side versus the scientific and technological innovation, those spaces, they're not at par. You find that the scientific technology advancements are very, very fast as compared to the law and how they are being enacted. And then the next is because of this disparity in terms of the paces, you find that, and because of technological advancements, it's very fast, it changes very very fast as well. There is difficulty in having proper risk management strategies being placed, because as soon as you have one regulation that is now speaking on this issue, the technology has already moved. So that causes the lack of high risk quality governance being implemented. Another challenge that has also come up is the issue of stakeholder engagement, and stakeholder engagement has different aspects. So basically in the AI, in the robotics field, there's need for stakeholder engagement in terms of coming up with oversight and regulations to govern this space. However, we find that as much as we need all the voices, all these private actors and all these stakeholders, they all want their voices in there, and sometimes there is conflict in terms of interest. One person is pushing for a particular interest to favor them in certain ways, or to bar them from being from being exposed to risk. So these are issues, these competing interests sometimes also negatively affect this process. Then the regulations and statute schemes and agencies sometimes lack the strong provisions and procedures for stakeholder engagement. In this case, that because there's not so much on the foundation, sometimes there is disparity in terms of what the place of stakeholders have, what their roles are, the procedures, and basically the procedures of how they can engage. And then another issue is that the stakeholders will definitely include the big companies, but even the small companies as well. Then all their voices have to be heard. But now you see that there's issues for the resource constraints, which also blocks out some of these players, because active stakeholder participation is actually very costly. So in that sense, therefore, some people are blocked out from such engagements. At the same time, also having everyone's voice heard has also been cited as the reason for some delays in having progress in making these regulations. So in one hand, have everyone's voices in, on the other hand, it also leads to some delays. Sorry. Yes. Just to continue with oversight, basically another issue is coordination. There's really struggle in terms of coordinating all these other people together so as to come up with a proper oversight, proper oversight and regulations in this field. And oversight regimes can overlap sometimes. In these cases, at best, duplication of efforts scarce resources from government systems and creates additional costs for targets of oversight. Then in conclusion, also, we looked at questions of how can humans maintain careful oversight of the quality of the work carried out by robots. And the conclusion is that in the same way management management can maintain careful oversight of the quality of the work carried out by human beings, that's the same way you monitor robots. And there's a quote by Deloitte where it points, and it's also been cited in the article by Solomon from our group, that Deloitte also pointed out that just the same way when you're dealing with robots, behind the scenes, there are tens of thousands of humans are continuously watching and training and improving these algorithms. So it's the same way. You just have to also have the human impact, monitoring and ensuring that these robots act in the prescribed manner, or rather in the way that you want it to operate. And then lastly, the regulatory framework for AI should keep up with development of AI and robotics in order to be able to control and monitor trends and flows in the machine. That is our presentation, and at the end of our slides, those are the references that we relied on in coming up with this presentation. Thank you very much. And I'm glad that there was no background noise.
Thank you very much, Shira. So now we'll move to group 2.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll be sharing my slides soon. One minute, please. Sorry, 1 minute. I'm sorry, 1 minute. I'm so sorry. Or can anybody in our group help me with that? Because
We can see your presentation now. We can see
what
it.
is it? Okay. You can see the slides already. Is it showing right now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't know. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Good morning. Good afternoon, everybody. I am Ira Chita, and I'll be presenting for Group 2 on robotics as it relates to labor law. So sorry, basically sharing the next slide. Can you help me with the next slide, please? Thank you so much. Now, on this slide, on the second slide, please, the content. Yes, you have the robot, labor law, basic law of robots, the intercept between labor law and robots, and impact of robots in labor law markets, negative and positive. Right now, try to explain the fact that labor law has some acts. Labor law already has some laws and regulation by the government. And we have the labor act, we have the Employees Compensation Act, we have the Trade Union Act, we have the Pension Reform Act. So now we're talking about robots. We have types of robots. We have following the last presentation by Group 1, we have 3 types of robots. When we are trying to relate it to the industry, we have the cobots, meaning the collaborative robots. They operate in conjunction in sharing environments with humans to interact, in their tasks. And we have the industrial robots. Industrial robots are robots that carry out actions, that recurring actions, like the factory robots. We also have an humanoid robot. This replicates human's action. An example of that robot is Sophia. Now, on the second slide, we are talking about robots. Robot is a branch of engineer, like a computer engineer, having AI artificials, along with some physical structures. That's robots. A robot is a machine that looks like human. As I said earlier, we have the humanoid robot. Sophia is one of it, that is capable of performing acts or actions and replicating certain human movements like jumping, singing, and the likes. So we can consider that AI is realized to take automatic tasks without thinking, without being instructed to do some things. They are already programmed to do certain actions, certain things like that. So on the next slide, we'll be having next slide, we'll be having labor law. Labor law is also known as employment law, as I said earlier. It is actually enacted to try to balance the relationship of the worker and the workers and the employer, the employee and the employer. Then we do have servant and master. So it's try to control the power of fire and hire of the employer. So that is all what labor law takes to regulate. We have some basic matter of labor law that considers some areas like employment, individual employment relationships, salary, wages, remuneration, condition of the work. You have to have, as an employee, you should have a good working space, safe. It should be safe. It shouldn't be dangerous to your health. All these are being regulated by the labor law. So on the next slide, I'll be talking about the basic laws. And the next slide, please. We'll be talking about the basic law of robotic. Robot has 3 rules. We have robots, they have their basic laws. The first law is that a robot cannot harm human. In the industry of work, in that kind of industry, the robot that is employed by the company must not hurt the fellow co-workers, not like human. We do have negligence and like. A robot shouldn't have any negligence in their work. And also the second rule is that robots should obey instruction. What it has been imputed in them as the data, they must not manufacture. That is it. It is automatic. It cannot change. It's permanent, except there is a kind of virus, probably a third party infusing some virus on the machine, on the robot itself. And the third law is that robots must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first and second law. The law is that you must do what you're instructed to do, and you must not do more than that. That is just it. So on the next slide, I'll be taking us on the relationship between robot and labor law. So now, as I said earlier, robot is recognized as a legal subject, as Sophia is now a citizen of Saudi Arabia. So now, what comes to my mind is that means she has every right every human being has. She has right to life, right to work, and every other thing. So robots, how can robots be able to take such step? So that's why we're having such laws. So how would also for instance, would a robot go on strike like we do, go on strike, go do some warnings for industrial actions? Is it possible for robots to do that? It's a question that it is not imputed in them, so they cannot. It's a no question. And also other forms of robots are becoming mainstream, e.g. self-driving car, and they will be able to comply with criminal law. And there are some legal entity. We have legal entity like complaints to be a legal personnel. Is robot a legal personnel? I don't think so. And there's no law that has established that, even if they have been given some right like citizenship. So with this slide, as such question has arisen, what exactly is legal entity? The designer, the producer, or the owner, or the robot itself? So on the next slide, we'll be taking you on how we can answer this question to our best knowledge, to our own research, based on research. Section 73 of the Employment Compensation Act defined an employee to be somebody like an employee as a natural person, not an artificial being. And now a robot is an artificial being. And in the way employees explain is different from what the Companies and Allied Matters Act, CAMA, has explained company to be. A company is an artificial personnel, as a legal personnel, but as well as a robot is a legal personnel. Who happen to be in line with an employee, but what the law has defined as employee is quite different to be a artificial intelligence. So those laws, I don't think with our own research that those laws will be enforced on robots. So human resources such like Sophia could eventually be discriminated against such protected class, as I said earlier, if that class were more likely to have experienced particular psychological responses during interview, thereby run a kind of labor law. We can't even see the real reform with robots, artificial person, with the laws that we have made for human being to protect human rights. So on the next slide, we're talking about the possibilities of robots in labor markets. With robots, we'll be having safety, speed, consistencies, and productivities in our day-to-day activities through the help of robots. They've actually enhanced the productivity of industry, and there's no to it. It's a big yes. So there should be some negative part as well. Can we move to the next slide? Now the negative impact of robots in labor markets. To me and to this research, to everybody in our group, is not basically on robots now. It is human, we actually invented this thing. Now there's loss of job and reduced opportunity that enhance risks in data breach and other cyber security issues, high maintenance and installment costs, yes, and insecurity of the future. Everybody's now eager, so curious about how will I protect my future if I'm not in line with this AI mentality. So in this last slide, in the conclusion, we'll be having that, in the last slide, please, we're having that the evolution of technology seems like the level of technology has been so intelligent and so nice, and it is very, very inevitable for everybody. We just have to cope. So robots and artificial intelligence and super intelligence humanoid robots are beginning to emerge, it might take a while before our laws and institutions match up with this phase that comes up in the innovation of technology. What this means that since we are yet to have problems with AI, with robotics, and in labor markets, now there's no law to reform them. Until such issues arise, then we will have things, we have something to talk about. We have contemporary issues to have laws on and regulation on. Then we might reform all these labor laws regulations like the Labor Act, the Employee Compensation Act, the Trade Union Act, and the pension reform.
Exceeded your time.
I'll say thank you very much and really appreciate. Thanks for listening. Thank you. Bye.
So we're moving to the next part of the program, of the mentorship program now, and that is the mentors' comments on all that the mentees have presented on. So I'll be calling on Mr. Gabriel Udo to speak first.
Okay, thank you. Am I loud enough? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, but it can be better.
Okay, that means I have to do a little bit of screaming. Okay, so at any point, if you can't hear me, just let me know. I have to try to keep my voice up. First of all, thank you to the two presenters, Cherry and Irat. Irat was, we had this person in the university that whenever she was presenting would say, if you blink, you miss. So the presentation was at that pace, and every sentence was started with some information that if you take 1 minute off, you're most likely not going to catch the next one. So thank you again for the presentation. Before I get into comments on the two presentations, which I'll try to keep very short, I just want to mention that maybe you'd like to refer to, this is a very, robotics is a very vital topic, and I really hope the other mentor is here. I see he has a specialty in robotics, and this would be very helpful. I had a conversation with a professor of communication studies sometime last year, David Gunkel. He wrote a book, and in his book, Robotic Rights or Robot Rights, he's advocating for fundamental rights also for robots. And this is it's a very beautiful conversation if you get into the aspects of the book. And it's going to expose a lot of other things. There are so many perceptions that we have about robots. And this is something that I've seen in the research that has been done by both teams. First, the first presentation was built on the fact that robotics is a branch of AI. The statement most times it sounds very true, but from personal research, I think robotics is not a branch of AI, but some robots use artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is really wide. There are different levels to artificial intelligence. There are robotics, there are robots that are automated. There are robots that are autonomous. Well, the level of autonomy is a little, depends on the level of human engagement. There are robots that are just switch them on, switch them off. But the important thing about robots is the capacity for them to be programmed to do those things that are mostly traditionally known to be done by humans. As has also been mentioned, you have humanoid robots, industrial robots. Some don't even have a human shape. Then you have the autonomous robots. You even have the mobile robots, like some look like cars, some that should be used to carry human beings or things around in industries. This is something that could be looked into much later, and that's one of the things I really picked up from the first presentation. The second presentation talked about mostly about the identification of robots with regards to what legal provisions we have now, because like we'll get to discuss much later when we get into answering the questions. We'll look at the capacities, what's the personality, before we start trying to define what. It's more of philosophy than law first. Is it okay to call a robot a human being? The second presenter mentioned Sophie. Sophie. Sophie became a citizen of Saudi Arabia in 2015 and has been given the same rights as a normal citizen. I'm not sure how complicated that would be, because there are so many loopholes we're certainly going to have with regards to having robots. And when it comes to labor laws, we are going to have, especially in Africa or in Nigeria, as far as I know, there is no provision, no expectation as to having robots to work, be in our workplaces. There is no law protecting them, or even, well, there's some laws of thought that would protect human beings from harms done by robots at the workplace. But generally, I don't really see laws now being capable of taking care of the inclusion of robotics in our workplaces. So I'll leave it there. Thank you, the first two presenters. If there are any other discussions, I'll leave them to when I'll have to answer the questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll move to the next mentor.
Next mentor is Mr. Bode Akim Modu. Please, Mr. Bode, unmute yourself. Thank you very much, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I was on the road when I was called in. Okay. Yeah, I looked at the two different presentations. Okay. I think some of it was quite similar to what was discussed last time for the concerning the same mentorship program. So my thoughts on everything, and before I talk about the presentation, my thoughts on everything, just to clear some things about the aspect of robotic artificial intelligence. I think it's usually confused in that most robotics, right? And they think of humanoid robots, right? I'd say that less than that they actually do the everyday robots. They are actually not everyday robots. They are hardly humanoid robots. Most of the robots are majorly going to be are going to look like what they call them, like typical machines. They may be on wheels. They may be they may have propellers or things like that, but like drones and things like that. But very, very small number of robot systems will actually look like humans, in at least for the nearest future, until we get to that point where we have a lot of humanoid robots. Concerning the aspects of artificial intelligence and robotics, I think what most people don't realize is artificial intelligence, robotics has existed as far back as the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, heavily used in the industry. Artificial intelligence has just given the industry an opportunity to be more robust, to be more what they call it, to be better at doing things, to make some really good, to keep improving itself. So I'd say artificial intelligence is more or less like giving robotics machines, which are just machines with sensors and actuators, the opportunity to kind of improve their processes. So if a robot does a process once, right, it collects feedback from those sets of processes over time, and then makes it better, tries to make it better, tries to improve on it in the next step or in the next set of steps. So that's where artificial intelligence has really come into robotics. Concerning the laws concerning robotics, I think people will be less concerned about robots in terms of their workings. They are more or less like machines, right? But much more focus on artificial intelligence. A lot of the robotics we have today are in the manufacturing space, industrial space. Very few have interactions in the public spaces. So for the most critical aspects will be robotics that are used in public spaces where they have to interact with humans that have no business with these robots, right? So you have delivery robots, robots that are meant to deliver food items, robots, drones, and things like that. The question is, if a drone falls from the sky and hits someone on the head and causes them to die, who takes liability for that, right? So when you look at that, you then go back to, was this robot equipped with any form of artificial intelligence? Because the same question goes back to, if a plane falls from the sky and damages or kills people on the ground, who takes liability for it, right? It's the airlines. So most likely, these questions go back to who are the people operating these systems, who are the people who have who are then back to the people who manufacture the system. So if the problem is from the operator, right, or the person in charge of monitoring the systems, then the liability should fall on them. If the problem is based on a firmware breakdown or something that happens in terms of the mechanical, electrical, something that has to do with the manufacturer, then we can say that goes back to the manufacturer as well. So these are the ways you can look at how tax, or not tax, how liability falls on robotics. Robotics themselves can actually not bear any liability. They do not have conscience. They do not understand they do not understand if their decisions are right or wrong. They are only working based on data that is available to them. So okay, so let me just run through. So the slides, yes, there's one of the slides which included a case where the 3 laws of robotics. Those are not they are not pegged down laws. They were developed by, I think, the Asimov's rules. They are not. They were just. It was a fictional. It was from a fictional book about the future of robotics, and it was a case whereby, if I'm not mistaken, it was a fictional book about robotics. So it was a case whereby if you are developing a robot that has to interact with humans, then you should think about factoring these kinds of laws when designing your system. But it's not a set of laid down rules. For instance, there was a chess match recently in one of the countries. A young boy was interacting with a robot who was a robotic arm which had AI, and they were playing chess. And the boy got his finger caught by the robot. The robot is not smart, right? It's not smart enough to. It wants to make its move, and it made its move, and the boy got injured in the finger, and that became the topic of discussion as to is robotics a danger and all that. So these are some of the things that should be considered in terms. So those rules are not laid down rules. They are not rules that you must put down. But when you start putting AI into the equation, you have to start working with a lot of regulations, because you are telling robots to make decisions based on their continuous data and the algorithm that you fed into them, right? And these can be biased, they can be unbiased, they are usually biased. There's actually no decision that is unbiased. It has one level of bias in it. So the data that this robot uses to train itself will have one level of bias. how biased, what form of bias is involved. Has this robot been trained to understand, to look at white people more? Has it been trained with, let's say, a particular demography? Has it been trained more with a particular skin color, or things like that in making decisions? And that's how you get things involved. Yeah. I'm done on that.
Thank you very much, sir, for your contribution. So we'll move to the questions now. So I'll be asking the question one by one. So the first question will go to Mr. Gabriel Udo, and it goes this way. He said, is it possible to have robots that can work independently of human assistance?
Okay. First of all, thank you, Mr. Bode. There's a lot of things lots of bits of information, the comments you just made, especially for those of us that are in the social sciences. I think it's a lot of clarification that you've done. So to the question is whether it's possible to have robots that can work independently of human assistance. That takes us back to just like Bode said, the issue of artificial intelligence. How independent can a robot be? There are stages to there are levels to this independence. There are robots that can work almost. For now, we don't have a fully autonomous robots that can be completely, but that can be completely disconnected from human act. At least there has to be somebody to put it on and put it off. That's how the discussion is had, basically. But when it comes to functionalities of doing specific things, there's all, like in international humanitarian law, when we discuss robots and drones, the use of robots and drones, we talk about the kill cycle, the particular functionality of a robot. If a robot is designed to build a car from the beginning of the build to the end of the build, is it possible to build a car from the beginning to the end without having any human interaction? Yes, we have robots that are just fully programmed to do certain things from the beginning to the end, but it's not possible to have a robot that can be fully autonomous, take care of itself, put itself on at the beginning, and when it's done, switch itself off. No, but there are very high levels of autonomy that has been used by robots, especially industrial robots. I know there are robots that are used in building cars, and sometimes these robots require human intervention in some areas. But there are some robots that can just fix things from the beginning to the end without any human interaction. But I'm sure Mr. Bode will have a lot more to add to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So the second question will go to Mr. Bode, and it goes this way. He said, will robots add to the high unemployment rates in Africa?
Okay. So in terms of employment and unemployment, I think we all know the major reason why there's a high level of unemployment in Africa. It really has, I think there's even a case scenario whereby we actually need, Africa kind of lost out on the Industrial Revolution, right? And the Industrial Revolution, we all know, created a lot of jobs. Some jobs were lost, but most importantly, created a lot of highly skilled jobs. There's a study by I don't know how many of us know. We know that there's this study by the Flynn effect. The Flynn effect says that IQ gains over time, right? And we know that humanity has seen an increase of, I think every decade there's a 3-point increment in the IQ level of humans. And we already know that this is inevitable. The information age has made it easy for people to actually access information, to upskill, to skill themselves with know-how, irrelevant certain types of certificates are coming. So just like we had cases where during the NITEL period where we had landlines, right? And then we switched to mobile phones. millions and millions of jobs, new jobs were created as a result of switching to mobile phones. Those who work in NITEL could either have evolved or decided to stay in those fields. But those fields have become obsolete, right? They are not needed anymore. So in terms of robotics, Africa is in need of high levels of industrialization, and that will require robotics to be a part of it. Will it increase unemployment rate? No, it will actually improve the skill levels of the. We know that the main reason why we are lagging behind in terms of meeting our needs, being self-sufficient in terms of food production, in terms of need at scale, is because we are operating industrial machines, right? Operating industrial solutions. So it will actually improve. It will actually improve the skill level. It will improve salaries. It will improve the pay of engineers. It will improve the pay. New fields are going to come out of it. New opportunities are going to come out of it. That will be able to take care of this increased IQ generations, right? They do not want to do menial tasks. They do not want to do repetitive tasks. They want to do intellectually stimulating and challenging tasks. So it's actually going to produce a lot of jobs that would actually improve employment opportunities. Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. So the next question goes to Mr. Gabriel, and it says, how does the development of robotics change the trajectory of labor laws in Nigeria? Can robots ever enjoy the same privileges as a human employee does?
Okay, the question has two sides to it. Development of robotics, yes, certainly. There has to be, if we ever get to that level of industrial revolution where robots are highly involved in the day-to-day activities of corporate bodies. In some countries, they're already having discussions about having their systems managed by some level of artificial intelligence, automating things and having robots in place. And that's why in those places, they could start having discussions about what legal protection should be available for those who get in contact with these robots first. And then, like what they had mentioned earlier, robots would mostly be considered, up till now, is still being considered as machinery. To discuss about robots as products, talk about safety of the product. Is it safe? So if something happens to a robot, the discussion would be like, if a car has an accident, who do we hold responsible for that? So yes, we're going to have lots of the labor laws are going to need to change. For instance, we need to redefine who the laborer is, who the employee is, because there are instances where if the law requires that two employees, how to handle issues between two employees, and then there's an employee that has a clash with a robot, whatever format, there has to be a law that defines how these things are settled. There has to redefine whether an employee can also be a robot, because so far I don't think there's any law, at least for Nigeria, that considers artificial systems as being covered by labor laws. Even the definition of companies by KAMA does not cover robots, because at first it says that it talks about an employee as a person, and sorry, it talks about a company as it looks at the company as an artificial person, but then talks about all the things that this person must have to be a company. The number of directors, secretaries, and those components, a robot does not have. So that definition doesn't even cover a robot. So yes, there's going to need to be lots of adjustments, and I really hope we will catch up with that. And then the second part of the question is whether robots can ever enjoy the same privileges as humans in Nigeria. Well, so far that's very unforeseeable. Humans are special agents, and so far at the moment we don't even have enough laws protecting humans. So I'm not sure we'll get to the point where robots, at least at the foreseeable future, I'm not sure we'll get to the point where robots will have the same privileges. For instance, how do you pay robots a salary? How do you give robots a leave? It's like having a car and giving the car the same treatment you give to your child. I do not see that happening. There are discussions, this is more developed economies, like I mentioned earlier. In the US, there are discussions about giving robots rights. You hear all sorts of things. People get married to robots, and and then they start asking for, like the discussion is the same line with how do we give animal rights? But then animals don't have the same rights with human beings. It's not possible so far up till the moment. So consider robots to be at the third level of that ladder. We are not surely going to have the same level of protection for human beings. Even when it looks like we do have it, it's going to be impossible to implement some things. Like we talked about Sophia, it's okay for Sophie to be declared a citizen of a country, but then if Sophie is working, how do you pay Sophie a salary? How do you handle injuries by Sophie? How do you ensure that somebody doesn't just go somewhere and switch off? Would you consider if somebody switches off the machinery of Sophie, would that be considered murder? Would it be said that somebody has killed another human being and all this? So it's another level of the discussion entirely. But so far, it's not foreseeable that robots are going to enjoy the same privileges as human beings.
Thank you, sir. And the next question goes to Mr. Bode, and it goes this way. Who incurs liabilities when the robot defaults one of the labor law regulations, perhaps even for discrimination or revelation of trade secrets?
Okay. Okay, in terms of liabilities, I think it still goes back to how the robot or what particular purpose the robot is built for, right? If you go to industrial manufacturing plants where robotic machines are being deployed, you will clearly see lines of demarcation about as to your distance, the minimum distance you must keep from robots, this specific robot, in order for you not to incur any kind of injury. So I'd say that we've seen perfect cases with Uber's self-driving system, which in which the driver who was in charge of monitoring the system was operating her phone while the self-driving vehicle was moving, and then led to the death of someone. The said lady has been charged, right? Uber did not bear any liabilities for that. The said lady has been charged because she signed an agreement that she would monitor the self-driving vehicle while she was operating it. And so the company itself, many companies who manufacture these solutions, who develop this AI, right, will definitely have put in place, just like we have a user license agreement that tells you that we will not be liable for this or that or specific cases. Now, we will definitely see different situations whereby some cases will be won, some will be lost, but we know that many of the companies would want to ensure that the liability is pushed away from them as much as possible. So they will put in place many agreements for the consumer, the user, and things like that, that gives them that potentiality being far from. We're also going to see a case where problems, injuries, their deaths would lead to settlement. So I would say, just like we've seen in the privacy space, in the data and privacy space, artificial intelligence space, where manufacturers will do everything possible to push liability away from themselves as a result of what has been manufactured. Yeah.
You can unmute yourself, Christina.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
I'm done.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you very much, Mr. Gabriel. Christina, please unmute yourself. I think our network is fluctuating. So we go to the next thing today is the picture time, please. All our mentees should put off their video. We want to take screenshots. Please, everybody, if you are with us, please, if you dial Chito Mbachero, yeah. Up your video and please kindly take a screenshot. Take a screenshot of the screen and post on LinkedIn and write what you have learned, tag JIIPCC, tag our mentors for today. Thank you very much. I think Bonolu Meleve and Ifedayo, please put up your video. Thank you very much. Okay, kindly, we have two announcements I'll be sharing with us. So the JIIPCC end of the year party is currently, the registration for the JIIPCC end of the year party is currently ongoing. The links have been shared to your WhatsApp groups. So please kindly register. For those of us in Abuja, and for those of us that like to party in other states of the country and even outside the country, you can just start saving up now. Before that time, you will have gotten the flight money. So the next announcement is the private mentorship program. Please, for those of us that want to have 30 minutes private mentorship with our mentors, you register with the link bit.ly/JIIPCC-PM. So you get to ask the mentors some questions in your areas of studies. Thank you very much, everybody. So it's time for the vote of thanks. I'll be calling on Ms. Juliana to talk to us now. Ms. Juliana, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, Hussein. And well, I could see the enthusiasm in his face when he was talking about the party. Hussein likes party a lot, so we are holding him accountable for how that party would happen in December. And please feel free to sign up, whether you're in Abuja or you're outside Abuja. Then I really want to say a very big thank you to the mentors for today. Thank you, Mr. Gabriel. Thank you, Mr. Bode. Mr. Bode has been with us for a long time, and he's very positive and responsive whenever we reach out to him. We are so grateful, Mr. Bode. Thank you for deploying your knowledge and your experience to ensure that the next generation is well knowledgeable about this area. And I also want to say a very big thank you to Mr. Gabriel. Mr. Gabriel is so busy. However, he still tries to make out the time to be with us. We are so grateful. Thank you so much, Mr. Gabriel. And I want to thank Christina. Christina was a mentee in the first quarter 2021, and she's still here with us, giving her best and ensuring that everyone is equipped with the right knowledge. Thank you so much, Christina. Thank you, Hussein. Hussein is like the power behind what we're doing, and he's also the party person and the lively person here among all of us. That's for me and for me, Shao, but I don't know about the rest people here. So thank you, Hussein, for the work that you do. And a very big thank you to all the mentees. Thank you for working together, cooperating with one another, putting your presentations together. And for those of you that presented, it was a beautiful presentation and a beautiful research work. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Today is Friday, so I'd like to wish everyone an amazing weekend. Please take care of yourself, rest properly, and know that your assignment for next week will be sent to you today. YouTube page to watch this video or previous videos. And for the private mentees to take advantage of it, one of the things that we get during the feedback is that people want personal time with the mentors. And the only way that we can achieve this, and the only way that they will get to know you personally, is if you sign up for the private mentorship session. If you don't sign up for it, they will just know you facially, but they will not know your name or something personal about you. So I would like to encourage everyone to take advantage of that session. So with that, I would like to, yes, for those in Kenya that are having their election now, I wish you people a peaceful election, and hopefully there are no, what they call all those things that they do at the back. We hope that it's a free and fair election and that everything goes peacefully. And so with that, we come to the end of the session for today. Thank you all. Have an amazing time. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Gabriel. Thank you, Mr. Bode. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Hussein. Bye. Love you all. Have an amazing weekend.
Bye, Ma. We love you too, Ma.
Oh, you're the first person to respond to me since I've been doing this program. Okay, bye.
Bye.